Well, it has been a long time. Welcome back to Waterproof Records. And today I welcome my guest, my friend, drummer, comedian, all-around great dude, Matt Neal.
Hey.
Things are going to change. I can feel it.
If this going to be that kind of party, I'm going
Waterproof Records. Waterproof Records. Waterproof Records with Jacob Gibbons.
I'm thinking I've not done any video podcasts.
You haven't done any video podcasts?
I haven't done a live podcast with another human.
Yeah. I've been on, I think
This is the first one.
Yeah, but I've been on your
Right?
podcast, I think, maybe 5 times.
Definitely 3, maybe 4. I'll have to look.
I mean, over the years.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you have... Okay, well, first and foremost, before we get into that, so I know I've been gone for a while. Thank you guys for being patient. You know, the last episode was my friend Charlie Talbert for the Angus soundtrack. And then it was the holidays, you guys. And so when it comes to the holidays, it got harder and harder to, you know, be able to record any episodes. And then I went on this big, long hiatus and vacation and got COVID, like almost everybody did. And it's just been tough to do things. But now I'm back, and I have known Matt for a decade now. It's got to be close to that.
Yeah.
I think I met you in 2012 or around that time.
Yeah. It's weird. I was thinking about that on the way here. I was like, you know, in a town where it's strange anyway.
Yeah.
Like, we've been friends for a long time.
A long time.
And, you know, friendships as an adult are hard enough.
Yeah.
Friendships in a giant city like Los Angeles also
Forget about it.
very difficult. And then, you know, artists, whatever we want to call ourselves,
Yeah. I think we are justified in saying that we're artists.
generally flaky.
Yeah. True.
Maybe it's the dad thing that makes us more responsible than the average bear, you know, but
Yeah.
like
Age
don't know.
and fatherhood and the responsibilities
Yeah.
that we've taken on. Yeah.
yeah, but you got to nurture friendships, which is the thing that's so weird because you grow up just getting friendships. Like,
Yeah.
people move from school to school, and that's why it's so difficult because you have to redo that.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you didn't move a lot as a kid, if you stayed in one spot,
Yeah.
you got your friends when you were 5.
And then you kept them
And you had
all the
them.
way through.
You didn't earn them,
Right,
really.
right, yeah.
I mean, kind of like little kids bond
Yeah.
or whatever, but I mean, come on. And then you live with people in college. They live there with you. That's too easy.
It's so easy.
Like, to stay in contact. So then, you know, you moved out of your home state. I moved out of my home state.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is I cherish good friendships.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to
To
see
still
this.
have us
And
as friends.
it's also weird that you are like a viral TikTok star. And when you're talking to that, there's people paying attention. It's so weird. It's
Right,
like, it's
right.
not a live audience, but it is a little. Like,
you
it's,
know people are going to see it.
it's weird.
Yeah.
But cool. I'm you know, whatever.
Well, I'm stoked. It's true. We've known each other for a while, and he met the criteria for my show, which is, I've mentioned this on the show before. And when we talk about the friendships and the people that we've accumulated in LA, I've accumulated friends over the years, and I can actually define my time in LA by these different friend groups.
Yeah.
And there's a very specific pocket that revolves around stand-up comedy. And I wouldn't even say that circle is an existence anymore as much as it used to be.
Yeah.
You know, there was an era 5, 6, 7 years
Yeah.
where my primary circle of friends were all comedians. And that's actually how Matt and I met. We met in stand-up comedy through a mutual friend and hilarious comedian, Haley Boyle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's the one who introduced us. And that was a big part of my life for a long time. And when I started doing a podcast, all the other podcasts I had been a guest on and a part of, besides the one I do for work, had been comedy driven, had been created by comedians.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew when I started this, when I started Waterproof Records, I was like, I'm not going to allow comedians on the show unless they have some footing, some foundation in music.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that Matt and I not only connected with comedy and funny and being guys with kids, being married men, but we connected on music.
Yeah.
We right out of the gate started talking about bands, and then it was around that time in those early days that I learned that you were the drummer of Mariner 9.
I was.
Mariner 9. Now, a lot of you guys may never have gotten a chance to know about Mariner 9 because they had some moderate success, but would you say that in the Philadelphia community, there might be a good chance in the alternative rock scene in the 90s you had heard of Mariner 9?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we were, together playing all the time, our people kind of moved from the suburbs of Philadelphia, where we got our start in Westchester, Pennsylvania, through college. We kind of moved to the city from there. And at one point when we kind of had to officially stop playing because I moved, my bass player, Dave, moved at one point across the country. And then Jason, the guitar player, moved to San Francisco. We're like, well, we can't really play together anymore, so we're going to have our last show.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a bad band breakup or anything like that. It was just logistically, this has to end now. Yeah. And in some ways, creatively, we were really bummed out is the best way I can put it, is that then with no internet, it was really, really, really hard to get anybody to know who you were.
Sure.
Right?
I can't even imagine.
So we had reached the point where it's well, we keep doing what we love to do, and we show up to these shows and 10 people are there. That's great, but it's not sustainable. You get to a city and your record's not there because the distributor didn't get it to the record store in time. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows you're there or what. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So we were kind of I guess we're done, kind of.
Yeah.
And so we had this farewell show, and it was packed.
Is this 1998?
This is 98. It must have been around then. Yeah.
I did my research.
And so we had this farewell show kind of thing, and it was, the outpouring of people being into it was so interesting.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of well, I wish you could all be at every show.
Right.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we wouldn't be stopping.
Right.
Right? So it was just a bummer. This business is so hard to crack, and we did almost everything you could possibly do to be as successful as we possibly could.
Yeah.
In touring, getting the word out. We were, I would say, ahead of the game in our ability to record our own music. We had created studio by then.
Wait, you created your own studio?
Yeah, it still goes today. It's called Minor Street Records. Brian McTeer.
What?
It's insane.
I have to visit this someday.
Oh my God.
I would love to see that.
It is incredible. It's incredible. Minor Street Records is a museum of, not a museum. I don't even know how to describe just how beautiful a space it is.
Yeah.
And iconic. The sound in that room, it's just whatever the sound of angelic voices that people talk about, that's that room to me, because not only is it just amazing, but also the things that we did there together. And we reunited a couple times. I say reunited because we all were in the same place to make records over and over again. And we're hoping to do it again this year.
Yeah.
And it just is this magic that settles in when we play. It's the tone.
Yeah.
It's whatever that is. after 5 years not seeing each other in the same room, and we sit down and just hit it. It's like, holy shit. It's just
magic.
And
That's amazing.
So that never went away. And we kind of talk about like, we were the best of friends, and like we toured easily. We love touring. Now, we never toured for months at a time on a bus and got sick of each other.
Yeah.
Okay. But we did regional tours for a week, 2 weeks, a lot.
Yeah.
And it's hard and it's tiring when you're not getting paid and nobody shows up and you sleep in the van too much. And, you know, it's hard. But we loved it. Like, we had so much fun.
Yeah, it's something that I've never done, touring as a musician, and it's been a dream of mine just to experience it a little bit.
We toured in a van.
Yeah.
Okay, we went from the bass player's mom's minivan to a van, like a badass
Real
brown
deal Astro
Ram
van.
carpet on the ceiling.
Oh, I love it. God, you're killing me because this sounds like the dream. That's the dream.
It was so much fun. And like, we built a loft to put all our equipment in, and you had to sleep on it and on top of it, but you couldn't roll over in the space.
Yeah.
You had to choose which way you were going to go in, and that was your sleeping.
Incredible.
And I couldn't do it. Like, I was too claustrophobic to do it. I could never go up there. So I either didn't sleep, or sometimes I slept on the futon-y thing, the back laid flat.
Right.
So it was like one of those vans that would have captain's chairs back in the day with a window.
Totally.
But it was had that convertible seat. It was to say I love that van is like.
Does it exist? Or is it long gone?
It's long gone. It really got beat.
This was the 90s, man.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if it lasted that long.
We didn't kill it. I did sell it.
Yeah.
But I don't know what became of it. And by the time we sold it, I mean, it was trashed, you know?
Yeah, of course.
But we didn't graduate to bus. That was our level.
Yeah.
We were a van band.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of regional stuff. I played South by Southwest.
Wow. Back before it was the thing that it is?
97,
Yeah.
I think it was 97. And, you know, it was weird. It was weird being a band then. We felt so good about what we were making.
Yeah.
And so helpless to make any headway, you know?
What a different world we live in now from what you guys were experiencing.
It'd be so different.
Right.
It'd be so different.
It really would.
In a really good way. I mean, we were there for we saw the beginnings of Napster. And like, I think one cool thing about Brian McTeer, and you'll have to link to his unbelievable catalog of life and work. Like, what a brilliant person. But like, we've always kind of stayed ahead of the curve technology-wise in terms of like having a website, having a MySpace page. Like, we did all the things.
Yeah.
But the people weren't there yet.
Yeah.
Like they are now. But
That's
also, the whole idea is you don't need everybody.
Yeah.
You need your people. Mm-hmm. So if we could have assembled our people around the country that the one or two here or there, it would have been a different game. And that's a long way to get to.
Yeah.
We didn't realize how much people liked us in the scene until we stopped being there.
Yeah.
And it was a bummer.
Yeah.
To just be like,
yeah, absolutely. Well, so for those who don't know about the band, Mariner 9, you can actually, so first of all, you could go on to Bandcamp and you could look up Mariner 9, and you guys have pretty much your entire catalog
there,
and very prolific. You guys wrote, a lot of albums, and then you've released a lot of unreleased material in these Iceberg series 1, 2, and 3. And I got a chance to really dive into the first main studio record. What's the title of that one again?
The Shallow End of the Gene Pool.
The Shallow End of the Gene Pool. Yeah. So I got a chance to listen to that one. Great stuff.
Yeah.
And then I listened to 20, which was the 20-year reunion. So all that being aside, you should definitely check it out. But I was going to say, so Mariner 9, you guys started in 1991. And
January 12th. We just passed our anniversary.
You just did. Yeah. And this is in Philly.
Yep.
And that you guys were all from there.
Yeah.
And this time period in your life, you were probably in your early 20s or
teens. I mean,
teenager.
yeah, just graduated the summer after high school. I joined the band.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they had started in high school as like a covery band, Simon and Garfunkel, like folky stuff, because they all went to this really amazing prep school in Pennsylvania called the Hill School.
Yeah.
Very Dead Poet Society deal.
Yeah.
And I was the outsider kid. I went to the local Catholic high school, and I was a year older than, or I guess me and Dave were both a year older than Brian and Jason. So they were still in high school, and Dave and I were going into, I guess, freshman year of college. So like, it's so funny. My memory's so murky on these dates. They're so far out, but like, yeah, it was, and the funny thing, this is the funny thing in synchronicity and why I believe in it so viciously. So I went to this little Catholic grade school. I'm a recovering Catholic, by the way, which is probably something we have in common.
Yeah.
But I went to this little grade school called St. Aloysius, and I must have been in 7th grade. I'm probably getting this wrong. It was towards the end of my tenure at this grade school.
Yeah.
This new kid came to school named Brian McTeer. And I don't remember how we got together because underclassmen in that time period, you don't have much crossover.
Sure.
The only thing I can think of that maybe brought us together, I don't remember meeting him. I just know he was just there. But like, we both were drummers. That must have been it, because we had both already been into music, and we actually had this this class that wanted to produce a live music little show, and wanted as many kids that played instruments to be in the band, because the music director was kind of an all instrumentalist guy, and he was pretty competent at it. And I guess he thought he could pull it together with kids that young. It's pretty ballsy when I think back on it.
Yeah, totally.
So Brian and I were the drummers of the school. We were the only two that played the drums. And we had this, I certainly felt, maybe he did too, like this little competition of the songs that we're going to get to do. Like, Brian was so much better than me.
Yeah.
And I knew he would get the better songs, and he did. And I was just like, fuck, like, so there was this weird little competition there, but we became really good friends.
Yeah.
And talked music for hours on the corded home phone, like Led Zeppelin and just like all that stuff. And then I graduated and went to high school. He went to the Hill School, and we really lost touch for a good part of like 3 years, most of high school. And I was in another band in high school that we started at that same grade school. Towards the end of the year, I was like, will you let my band play a show? And they're like, yeah, okay. And my band played a show in 8th grade for our school. Like, the 8th graders put together this cover. It was like all Hooters covers and like Howard Jones, and I had a keyboard player, and it was probably terrible, but
still in 8th grade, that's impressive. Like, you're playing in a band.
And that band was the band I was in, me, the guitar player, and the bass player, all through high school.
Yeah.
And so we would play like...
What were you called?
We had many names. Our last name was called Tangible Fury.
Tangible Fury.
Also on bandcamp.com. It is a nightmare.
Go listen to some Tangible Fury.
But we had like Innocence.
I love old band names.
Last Exit was another one.
I feel like everybody at some point in time had their band called Last Exit.
It was.
I think that's an idea that pops into every teenager's brain in the 90s. They think Last Exit,
because I think I was steal an exit sign.
Oh yeah. I totally stole an exit sign, and I had one in my room that I think I told my parents had fallen or whatever. But every kid thinks of Last Exit.
So I was in that band all through high school, and the guitar player of that band was, and still is, just unbelievable guitar player. Yeah. I mean, he went to Berkeley like after high school. He was...
So we're not messing around.
A monster. So like our first years of playing music, we were playing music way above our pay grade because he was so good.
Yeah.
We played a lot of Zeppelin.
That's advanced.
In 10th grade, well, I was just telling my daughter this, and she did not give a shit. I was like, I won the talent show every year of high school.
That's awesome.
Like my band won the talent show every year. The first year we played Stairway to Heaven, like the real Stairway to Heaven.
That's amazing. Like that's only a thing that you joke about in your garage. You say one day we'll be able to play Stairway to Heaven, but like to actually be able to do it, to have all the musicians' ability at that level.
He was other level. I mean,
awesome.
we spent a lot of time together. We played Metallica, we played Led Zeppelin, we played like Van Halen. He could play everything spot on. Like, I was like, what the fuck is going on? We were in 12th grade, dude, and he's playing Eruption.
That's incredible.
Like, he's still amazing.
I'm the first to admit, and I'm sure there's a lot of guitar players like me, because I think we make up the bulk of guitar players. You learn the main riff. You learn the first minute of the song just to show off enough. But I could probably play the start of 70-80% of Metallica songs.
Yeah.
I could probably play all of them. But when it came to doing the Kirk Hammett solo, I was like, oh, forget this.
Yeah.
I could do the tapping part. I could do the slow solos in one at the beginning and all that kind of stuff. But you would come across kids like that.
Yeah.
That their skill was so next level. And so, of course, he went on to Berkeley and, he had that ability.
I mean,
That's
he
amazing.
was... And
Still playing music to this day, by the way, this guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
In the same way, he's a dad and home stuff. But like, he had a minute of success. Do you remember the Bloodhound Gang?
Absolutely.
Right. So
the roof is on fire. And what's their other? One Fierce Beer Coaster is the name of the record. I think that it was the
they
one
were
I got.
they live near us, so we
Really?
knew the Bloodhound Gang and the
That's cool. I didn't know that.
DJ Cue Ball.
The main guy.
The DJ.
Oh, okay.
The
He's
DJ
the guy who
Cue Ball.
mixes the stuff. Yeah.
He of the Bloodhound Gang started another band, which I cannot remember the name of, unfortunately, right now. But they started another side project that got the full signed. Here's the money. Go make a record treatment.
Label
the
treatment.
Drones. It was the Drones.
Drones. I've never heard of them.
No, the record never came out.
Oh,
Nothing happened, but it was so good.
so good.
So good.
Like Bloodhound Gang with a little hip hop touch
Hip-hop
and flourish
with
in
this
there.
monster guitar player
Okay.
and drummer.
Yeah.
Like, it was a fusion of those two like styles. It was fucking dope.
Has anybody leaked the drones? If you have, get it to me and we'll play it.
Yeah, I mean, that was cool stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
that was really good. So I weirdly was around a lot of really good musicians and I got really lucky. And I always felt like nowhere near as good as any of them. And like,
I don't
So
know.
Brian
I've heard
and
him
I-
play drums. He's a good drummer.
Brian and I had this weird rivalry in 8th grade and then lost touch for several years. And I'm in this other band, which ends up being Tangible Fury. And when college came and the guitar player went to Berkeley and I went to college in a different spot, we were like, I guess we're done.
Yeah.
I'll see you this summer.
Yeah.
And we'll see. We're 18 years old. And I played baseball. Like, I was a high-level baseball player. I thought I was going to be a baseball player.
That was the dream.
I got money to go play college baseball, right? And it just jumped to such a level at college that I just wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what the fuck do I do now? Like, I had this hobby playing the drums, but I thought I was going to play baseball now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just went full bore into drums. I was just like, well, I guess I'll do that because nobody has to tell me anything anymore. And it was hard. It was dark.
Yeah.
That was a hard pill to swallow to not
Pursue the thing that you thought you were going to be pursuing.
Yeah, brutal. So that year, while I was in this deep depression of life-changing proportions, I ended up getting contacted by this guy who was the boyfriend of one of my really good friends who was a girl. She wasn't my girlfriend. She was a woman.
Yeah.
That was my friend. Her boyfriend. She's like, my boyfriend, Dave, has a band. He wants to talk to you about playing drums. And I was like, all right. I got no band right now, you know?
Yeah.
And one day I just went to the house and brought my stuff. And I had really long hair by this point.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures.
And these guys were still in prep school, like Dead Poet Society, right?
Yeah,
So I'm like,
yeah.
this is going to be a fucking joke, you know?
Yeah.
Like, but he gave me a tape that they made in their basement with Brian playing drums. I didn't know it was Brian yet, but I was just like, this is really good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to have to really learn these songs. And like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I walked down the steps into the basement with like carrying a drum set, pieces, and there's fucking Brian McTeer. And I hadn't seen him since grade school, basically.
Grade school. Wow. I love this.
And I was just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And he had a prejudice, I think, or I felt it from all of them, and I could have just made it up in my head, but I was really an outcast. I had long hair. I smoked cigarettes. I went to the shitty school down the street. They looked like Dead Poet Society. And this guy's house had a pool.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm just a street rat. Like I always felt inferior. And the music was very different. Yeah. It was like, I think I would say early days was like very influenced by like REM or U2, like
really
mellowish side of alternative. And Tangible Fury, on the other hand, was hard rock, like loud, hard rock.
Well, it was a Tangible Fury.
It kind of was.
Yeah.
You could feel it.
If you're going to put Fury in the band name, it's kind of have a Tangible Fury. Well, I mean, so you started there, but Mariner 9, obviously the way you guys came together, that's indie rock. It was a nice meld of, I heard, elements, and I'm only going to compare you to other bands because I'm doing it out of like
this is interesting because I never know what to answer when people
Sunny
ask
Day
me.
Real Estate touches in there. There was some Mineral. There was some Braid. There was some. It all felt very 90s, like Midwest emo. I mean, not emo. No, that's not the right. Emo's the wrong category. Midwest indie rock.
Okay.
Midwest indie rock.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like.
We had really different weird influences. Yeah. Like all of us. And like,
do you think that's a fair assessment of what it is, or do you disagree?
If it was there, it wasn't purposeful.
Okay.
I hear my influences now very clearly. Like, oh, I guess I really latched onto that, you know, like this or that. Like there's a particular drum sound on Helmet's Meantime.
Yeah.
The snare drum.
Yeah. I love that.
That sounds like a snare drum to me.
Yeah.
That's what I always want it to sound like.
Yeah.
When you record a snare drum like that, it sounds like shit generally.
Yeah.
But live.
Sounds great.
Sounds great. So.
No, but I didn't catch. Oh, I could hear Slint in there.
Slint definitely made its way in there.
I can hear Slint in there. I couldn't hear Helmet, but maybe I didn't listen to enough.
That was later, I think.
Okay.
Fugazi.
I heard some Fugazi in there.
I
heard some Fugazi in there.
Influence. We actually recorded our first record at WGNS with Don Zentera.
Yeah.
Who was the mastermind of Fugazi Records.
Yeah.
And that was a hell of an experience. So it's like we had this amazing ride.
Yeah.
And by all accounts, very successful.
Yeah.
But it always felt like unfinished. Yeah. Like, fuck. Like, you know, we never got I can't tell you what it's like to do a bus tour and get sick of touring because I was never sick of touring.
Yeah.
We all left our dumb retail jobs for weeks at a time and drove from city to city.
Yeah.
Played music, got drunk, met people. Like, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Every second of it was unbelievable. Like, we used to do this thing because there was no GPS either, so we used a Thomas guide. Mm-hmm. You do your best.
Thomas Guide, which I, for those of people who don't know, so Thomas Guide is now. Was this a Thomas Guide in your part of the country?
It was a country Thomas Guide.
Okay, so when I moved to LA, when I moved to Los Angeles, I moved here in 2001, and the first thing that anybody ever told you to get then was a Thomas Guide. I'm from Oklahoma originally. I lived in the Chicago suburbs, but they said if you're going to survive here, this is pre-GPS, this is pre-iPhone. You need to have a Thomas Guide. And it was just this giant, massive book where you could go, okay, this is the street, this is the address, and it would show you this really, detailed, okay, now I'm in West Hollywood, or now I'm in Beverly Hills, or whatever. And it was really the only way you could get around here. And we had that thing like a Bible in the back of your car. Yeah. It's the only way you're going to get around LA. And now I remember the day that I was like, I don't need this anymore.
Yeah.
I never need this ever again.
Yeah.
So you did the same thing.
Oh my God. We had maps, like regular maps, and we would spend hours and days plotting a tour.
Yeah.
Like plotting the maps. Late in the game, we had I think a Expedia or Yahoo Maps or something but that might have even been a different band. But it was not easy, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
We had this thing where on the major freeways, every couple of miles, you'll see these crazy, weird roadside attractions. And we're we're going to stop at every one that we see.
Yeah.
And build in we would leave a show after playing at 1 a.m. to get on the road so that we would have the built-in leeway time to be able to stop at these dumb roadside attractions. Like the world's largest whatever.
Yeah.
And just, oh my God, it was so fun.
It's amazing.
It was so fun.
So, I mean, did you guys get a chance? I know you didn't get to do the big tour bus, but did you get a chance to have bands that you opened for or played a show with one night and you're like, wow, I can't believe we're sharing the stage with these guys? And if you did, who were some? If you can remember.
Yeah, so one of the now Mariner 9 had an offshoot, which was me, Dave, the bass player, and Tyler, who was our road manager, but was also just one of the coolest guitar players ever. If you asked him, he would say he's a terrible guitar player.
Yeah.
So he can't sit down and play you a tune and you'll be like, oh, that's this song, right?
Yeah.
But something about him makes the most amazing tones come out of a guitar amp.
Yeah.
And I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
It's just, nobody can do what he does.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. So we had this other side band called The Long Drive.
Yeah.
That I always kind of count together with the whole project because Jason played a lot of Long Drive stuff. Brian recorded a lot of Long Drive stuff. So it's part of our collective.
Yeah.
I feel like that. So the shows kind of mixed together. Between us, I think the biggest show we ever played, we played the Trocadero in Philadelphia, and we opened for Swerve Driver. That was the Long Drive.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And that was incredible. And I have a Smashing Pumpkins related story to that tour.
Okay.
We played at CBGB's, but I don't remember with who or anybody special.
Well, you got to play at CBGB's.
Gotta play at
That's
CBGB's.
amazing.
We played the Chameleon Club with Live. We played a lot of shows with Live.
Really?
Yeah,
Are they from your same neck of the
from
woods?
Delaware and Lancaster area. So we played a couple shows with Live.
I went through my Live era when I listened to those
they were
albums.
inspirational. We saw them go from the van to the bus to the biggest band in the country.
arenas,
And we're just well, what the fuck?
Why can't we do that?
We opened for them.
Yeah.
Why aren't we them? It's just well, I don't know.
Yeah.
They have better songs, I guess. And they have a better rep or it felt so personal then.
Yeah.
That for us, we were just well, we're doing everything wrong, even though it feels like we're doing it right. Now I'm just well, we did the best we could.
Yeah.
We had
I just think I just think this is the story, and it's still going on now. Even though you can rally people, you've just got. I mean, on TikTok, even I see really talented artists that are pushing their music, and you're going, why is this one over here got 5 million views or 20 million views, and this guy over here is just begging people to check out his tunes? Yeah. So it still happens. But by the way, and I think that my references for what you guys sound like, I think I was going way too emo. It's just that I was, because when you said Slint, I was like, that's way more accurate. Slint or the C in the Cake or things like that. Yeah. There was a lot more cool musicianship, and there wasn't a singer going like that. The bands I was naming did a lot of that. I think it was the sound of the guitars, the drum, and the bass that made me feel like that's where I was getting the early Sunny Day sound, but not the emo aspect. Yeah. It is really hard to narrow you guys down.
It is weird, which is probably why we never took off.
It's a tough one,
but
and maybe that's a huge part of it, which is. I think back then, labels specifically were probably I need to know how to sell you. Yeah. I need to be able to go into a room and say, they sound like this. Yeah. And you guys were tougher to describe.
It was hard to pin down, yeah. I mean, I want to get to your question, though, because I don't think I answered it about who we opened for.
Oh, yeah, you Swerve Driver,
Swerve
Live.
Driver. Long Drive, also in New York City, opened for Modest Mouse. And I think that... Well, the one that I'm most excited about is Mariner 9 opened for Built to Spill.
That's awesome.
And
That's awesome.
like,
Who I've newly discovered in my adult life. Like I missed them. I missed them as it was happening, and I got introduced to them by my buddy Noel. He was
Yeah.
basically like, "I think you'd really like them."
Yeah.
And once I got in,
Oh my
I was
God.
in. I was like,
Dude.
"They're amazing.
Unbelievable,
They're amazing."
yeah.
I listen to a lot of Built to Spill now.
And a cool one that was really, really completely unexpected and really cool was we walked into it's either TT the Bears or there's another great club in Boston, but we walked into the club to play and ended up finding out that we were opening for Lou Barlow and his project
I don't know who Lou Barlow
from
is.
Sebadoh.
Oh,
So
Sebadoh.
the I'm the one natural
Yes, yeah,
one. That dude.
Yeah.
I think I got it right. Lou
Yeah,
Barlow.
yeah. I think you're right.
And I wasn't as big a fan of that, but like Brian and Jason were like, holy shit.
Yeah.
So, and it was when that happened, that kid's soundtrack came out. That's why he was touring
Yeah.
by himself. And Archers of Loaf was our biggest our favorite. We played with them all the time up and down the East Coast.
I know who Archers of Loaf are.
Welcome
but
to Archers of Loaf, my friend, because
Okay.
they are
Would you
just
say it's like
incredible.
a Built to Spill? Would you say it's like that? No.
No.
Okay.
Just good, just rock.
Okay.
Just so, I don't even know. Again, Archers we couldn't describe. So here's like a perfect example, right? So the Archers, great dudes. Every time we were in town, we played with them. Every time they were in town, we played with them. We would go to their town, play a couple sets here and there, play a show here and there. So we got to know them pretty well. And they definitely had the whole graduate from a shitty van to a badass van.
Yeah.
Right?
They went a notch above.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that was interesting to watch too.
Yeah.
But they had, I don't even know how, but they got this thing where their song got in that show, My So-Called Life.
Oh.
And then at the time, that's all you needed.
That's all you needed
to
was to get
the van.
Yeah.
Right. So we
Yeah.
would just be like scratching for like, how do we,
Yeah.
how? And they
Yeah.
had no idea.
Yeah, it's like bands like Remy Zero, right? They got
Just
on
get it.
Smallville.
Yeah.
They got that as the opening title song. You don't really hear anything about that band at all.
I
but it
think
was that
all you
one
got to
song.
do is just keep doing it. And that's where like the whole thing with Mariner 9 stopping as it was had a lot to do with us just being like, well, I guess we don't, what we should have done is said, well, let's just keep going, figure
Yeah.
out a way to just keep doing this.
Yeah.
But we all, well, Dave and I for sure, just were like, well, we have to go do stuff.
Yeah.
Like I can't,
That's the same problem that we
Just
have
keep
with
doing
our
it.
comedy as well, which is, I mean, the thing is like outside of music, a lot of my life pursuits, I haven't been able to go, I'm 100% and I will sacrifice friendships, relationships, family, and I've just never been able to do that. And that's always prevented, I think, from me going into that region where I see friends of mine who became actors or famous comedians, but they really had to say, that's all I care about. I don't really care about relationships. I don't really care about anything else. And I really do care about my family.
Yeah.
And I really do care about going camping on the weekend. And
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
do. You know what I mean? Like I just am much more of a balanced person, that I love making people laugh and I love writing and playing music. But I was never that person that could say, that's all I want. That's all I want. And I feel like maybe that's what's required, at least for a couple years.
Yeah.
Maybe?
I think so.
I could be wrong.
Maybe not anymore.
Yeah. I mean, the world that we
know?
live in now, maybe not anymore.
But here's the thing. You still have to be good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So what we've done is allowed the people that can be good to be good on their terms.
Yeah.
And that's good.
That's good.
But
That's good.
I mean, and I don't think I want what I wanted when I was 20.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
could I tour like I even could tour then? No.
No.
Like, so, like, the cool thing is the Archers started doing this, and like, I don't know, 5 years ago or so, they played, Archers of Loaf started playing again.
Yeah.
And they would just fly to the city on the weekend,
Yeah.
play the show, and fly back home for the whole week.
See,
and they had a 10-city tour over 10 weeks. I was like, that's brilliant.
That's brilliant.
You can do that. I was like,
Yeah.
we can do that. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Like before the pandemic, I mean, we had a lot of like plans to be like, all right, let's get this going.
Let's do it.
and
Let's get it back up and running
why not?
again.
You know,
right.
at this stage, but the pandemic is allowing us to get back together again virtually because you could record virtually. Like I will be recording drums in my house here in Los Angeles. Brian will be listening in Philadelphia. Like
That's amazing.
it's
a different era.
It's sick.
Yeah.
It's great. I can't wait to get back and I'll be in that room in Minor Street though.
Yeah.
Like we'll finish the record there.
Yeah.
But like we can do all the pre-production
That's amazing.
pretty effectively now.
Yeah. It's like the idea. It's funny because bands like, if you remember, what has it been, 12 years now? Postal Service, or maybe it's been longer than that, but like it was so impressive back then to be for a group of people to be recording separate from each other. And now it's like that's just how things are done.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's in a metal band, and none of them live in the same place. None of them do. It's literally all done. I'll record these parts. I send them to you. You send them. You add it here. He goes to here. None of them live in the same town. It's amazing. But before, so Mariner 9, I want to encourage everybody to check him out. And you guys really did put out a lot of really great stuff. And it is good indie rock, great musicians. I enjoyed listening to it. I want to go in and dig into more. But
I have to put a asterisk on listening.
Yeah.
If you're going to listen to a little something from the Weathervanes perspective, which is the green record on there, don't pick and choose songs. Literally set aside an hour and listen to the whole thing start to finish. It's meant to do that.
Kids.
It will not make sense. You'll be like, what in the fuck is going on?
Well, we come from a time and people. Now, the good thing is the majority of people who listen to my show are from our generation. You know, maybe if you're younger, albums were meant to be from track 1 to track 12 or whatever. That's just how they were meant to be. And even if it wasn't a theme or what, there was a lot of thought and consideration usually put into the order of an album. But you're saying from that one specifically,
it won't work.
It won't work.
It
if you
won't
skip
work
around.
otherwise. Basically, we recorded the first half, the first 30 minutes of the record, straight through. So you have the first 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then here's the secret: we flipped it so that it then begins again from the end and plays backwards to the end of the 60 minutes. And then we recorded on top of the second half. So
that's brilliant. That's some Flaming Lips shit right there.
You hear the first half in the second half.
That's amazing.
But it's backwards. It's really cool. So you got to listen to it all at once.
Now I need to listen to that.
Otherwise, it's kind of weird. It's already weird.
Well, I'm glad you explained that. I think everybody. I mean, look, I'm a huge Flaming Lips fan.
Why weren't we successful?
Right? Because you were doing weird shit like that.
I don't understand.
And Flaming Lips are an example of a band that have been playing since the 80s and have had a huge breakout hits along the way. But they were examples of a band that would do really weird things that the label was like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, why? Why?
Yeah.
Why do you want 4 albums that you have to hit play at the same time? But I was going to say, before we move on to my big question for you, which one of the things that I love about Waterproof Records is I have musicians, I have people who work in the music industry. I have that in there. But we want to get into what was the band that really drove you. But before we say that, I wanted to mention the building the studio thing really. I think to myself, I was just the other night watching the Beastie Boys documentary that's on Apple Plus, and they did the same thing. And I just imagine that if you're an artist and you are given a little bit of money or you have a little bit of money, that has got to be the smartest thing you can do is to build a space where you can record music. Yeah. And now it's easier because now you've got laptops and all that kind of stuff. But back then, just
the barrier of entry is lower, but the room isn't. And getting the sound that you want. I mean, listen, I think
I'm listening.
I think Billie Eilish, her record is amazing.
Yeah.
And it sounds great. Yeah. And I've seen her live and it's great.
Yeah.
They didn't have any instruments to record.
Yeah. It's all digital.
Like, it's digital. So, yeah, you can do it, and it'll sound fine.
Yeah.
But, like...
if you're playing in a room...
I like playing together and hearing... Like, that's why people like live music. So, if you can imagine that you can capture the liveness and love it as much as you love seeing them live...
Capture the liveness.
right?
I want that on the back of a tour shirt. Capture the liveness.
Dude. That's why, like, as much as you can, we like to track everything together and then layer on top. I mean, that you were talking about that Beatles
documentary,
thing, like,
Get Back.
Dude, they pieced that shit together with like an 8-track or something.
That whole
Unbelievable
documentary, I swear I could do a whole episode, and I'll do a whole episode on it maybe. But that blew my mind. But okay, so now studio aside, I asked Matt and every guest I'm going to have on the show, I'm going to be like, and this is a tough question. We know it as music fans. You don't want to be asked like the favorite of all time because you go, well, which category of my existence are you referring to? But for musicians, there are albums that you hear and it changes everything. It either inspires you, you're a drummer, a great drummer. There had to be that thing that you heard and you were like, that's it, drums for life, and the style is this, and I feel this way. And everybody who watches and listens to this show knows Pumpkins, for me, were the life-changing band. But what was it for you? Yeah,
so as I said, I kind of like grew up with this like classic rock bent, Van Halen and all that. Really love the Police and really like Genesis and Phil Collins and all these things, but all like, I don't know, traditional-ish.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
From a drumming standpoint, like lots of greatness, but also
great drummers in those bands.
Yeah. And then I want to say it was like 1988 or so. I was playing in that band in high school. We were covering all of those bands, playing at proms and shit for 3 hours, all the classics, Boston and, And then Living Colour's Vivid came out.
There we go.
And me and the guitar player and the bass player were like, oh, you could do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the band, because we were like playing all these covers, Journey, we played a lot of Journey, I sang.
Yeah.
So I played the drums and sang all of these songs. Living Colour comes out. From a musical standpoint, we lost our mind.
Yeah.
Because like I said, he was playing Van Halen and all these crazy virtuosos. And you get to Living Colour, they added this element that made it so interesting. I think of it as adding old school like James Brown funk to hard rock.
Yeah.
And the things they would do to move the beat along, we ended up going to see them a lot.
Yeah.
Because they were touring a lot when that record came out. We saw them in like college gyms and stuff, small venues. And the way that Will Calhoun played the drums, especially and particularly his hi-hat foot. So he would chip the hi-hat foot with the quarter note throughout the song.
Drummer talk.
Yeah.
Deep, I want you to do it. I want you to do it because I have drummers that listen.
He'd be going with the hi-hats all the time, but hit the hi-hat with the hand he was hitting the snare drum with in between hits. So if you listen to the like little things that he would do in between hits, it just, I don't know, blew me away.
Yeah.
And I know people had done it before.
But it was the way he did it.
The way he did it.
And incorporated it.
I was like, oh, like I just loved it. I loved it. And he also incorporated the bell of the ride cymbal, kind of like, Neil Peart, but cooler.
Yeah.
Because they were playing these, can the drummer get some funky beats sped up?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. We just loved it. We dove in, like we turned into a 3-piece band. I still sang it, but like, we were like, we don't need all these extra keyboard people and crap. Get out. We're not doing that anymore. We're going to play really loud and really hard. And we're going to we literally played all of the songs on that record. Like the first 6 songs on that record, we covered and played.
Which is no easy task.
I don't, and I sang it. Like I was trying to sing it on the way here.
I would kill to hear this. I would kill because the only way you could do that is if you hadn't hit puberty yet on some of those notes. Here's what I want to say. The moment, so when Matt told me we were texting And he wrote Living Color. And I said, and I'm going to tell you, and this is a true reaction. I said, of course it is. Of course it is. You want to know why? You're a musician. And I think that there are bands that have existed that musicians like more than the general public likes them. I think Living Color is a fantastic band, and I love them, but musicians love them more.
Yeah.
It's like Rush. It's like Dream Theater. It's like bands that are technically good, but also make great music. Musicians really kind of perk up because
it's inspiring.
Yeah, you can have your pop single, you can have your hard rock song, you can have your Nirvana that's power chords and Dave Grohl just flailing around there. But when you see everybody in the group has an incredible amount of skill, and they're bringing them together. Living Color brought together soul, R&B, hip hop, hard rock, metal, reggae.
Yeah.
They brought in all these fusions and styles, and Corey Glover, his vocals outstanding. So the difference between you and me, I'm a few years younger than you, so I missed Vivid and joined in on Time's Up.
Okay.
And so then I went back.
Okay.
So I know Vivid, but Time's Up was the intro record for me.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, I was driving in the car with my wife in my 20s, and we're playing CDs or going through playlists or something, and Love Rears Its Ugly Head comes on. And I start going nuts. I'm singing, I'm moving, I'm gyrating my shoulders. I am going, it's early morning, and she looks at me and she goes, this is the most unlike you piece of music I have ever seen you like. She's like, I like it, but I'm surprised that you like it. And that was the thing about Living Color was it brought me in to these other styles of music in such a seamless way.
Yeah.
And so when you said Living Color, I was like, yes, a musician, a guy who loves drumming. And Will Calhoun is a unbelievable drummer.
Yeah.
And Vernon Reid is a killer guitar player. And they had the bass player back when we
Muzz Scullings was the guy.
Muzz Scullings, but now it's Wimbish. His name is,
I think you're right.
I forget his first name, Wimbish. But he's been with them since 92.
Yeah.
And, if you're not familiar with Living Color's work, color is spelled in the British way. And fun fact, it is spelled that way because Vernon Reid was born in England. And so he decided when he named the band, he said instead of just the regular American spelling of color, he added the U to give that little flourish. Yeah. That was Vernon Reid's decision. And they had Vivid, they had Time's Up. Then in 93, they had Stain. And then right after that album, it dipped. They broke up, and then they reunited in 2000. And since that time, they've come out with 3 more albums, one in 2003, one in 2006, and then in 2017, they just released something. I might be messing up those dates a little bit, but you get the idea.
They're still playing around a lot,
They're
too.
still playing. And, if you've never, you definitely have heard Cult of Personality. There's no way you've gotten through your life without hearing Cult of Personality. And that was the first piece that I ever heard from them.
Yeah.
And I remember the riff, that the way that he played it, the fingers were so far apart. And I just remember feeling like, I'm going to have to break my fingers in order to play this thing. Yeah. But what was it when you listened to Vivid, and it was those amazing drum parts that you heard him do, you even said that you chose your drum kit color based on that band. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I had an old drum set that I like I was telling you, I wish I still had it, but
you got to expand on this a little bit. He told me this before the show. So you had this drum set.
Yeah, so I had this old drum set. It was a 63 Slingerland drum set. For drummers that collect drum sets, they'll realize how dope that is. And I was young and I was stupid, and the hardware that held it up was shitty, and it wouldn't stand up to playing Living Color.
Yeah. Couldn't handle it.
So I sold it, and I bought a set of Tama Swing Stars, and I got red ones because, at the time, Will Calhoun was playing red
drums,
a red 5-piece. It was pearls, actually.
Yeah,
that he played, and I didn't like pearls.
Why? This is the nerdy drummer talk that I want for that listeners.
I didn't like them because the mounts that you put the toms on, it had a hole in it that you put the tube through, and it kind of ruined the resonance of the drum.
So nerdy.
Yeah. Tama didn't Tama didn't have the ones that broke a hole through the shell.
Yeah.
And then they evolved to what like DW used, which is like the suspension type of mounts. So you don't pierce the drum at all.
I love it.
Yeah.
There's drummers that are loyal to other brands that are going, while they're listening. But anyway.
Yeah, I glommed onto that one. Also, the drummer Dave Wasikanen from the Hooters played Tama drums.
Okay. So that was another reason.
It was another, I knew, and their logo was the strongest name in drums, right? So I could see how sturdy the stands were and how easy they were to set up. So I dug it. And they last to this day. I mean, they're still great.
But that would be the base. So you chose that because, back to my theory, which is it's just we all love bands. You mentioned Genesis, you mentioned the Police, and drummer of Police is Stuart Copeland.
Yeah.
Now, a great musician, but there is I would imagine you've experienced as a drummer, and you could speak to it even more, there's by the book, and then there's...
He wrote his own book.
And then there's somebody who does it their own way.
Yeah.
And so probably the people that stand out for drummers are people who do their own thing. Do you think that that's true?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's really hard to.
That might be too tough a question.
It's hard to tastefully stand out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like
tastefully stand out. That's a good way of putting it.
Like Phil Collins is exceptional.
Yeah,
and he could drop into the pocket.
Is he? I don't know this at all, but I mean, I would not look at Phil Collins and think, oh, that's an exceptional drummer.
Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, amazing.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. And
do you think he has a tangible fury?
All around him, yeah. Yeah. It's he was really good. Stuart Copeland, I mean, he stands alone. I don't even know where to put him.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, he's just incredible. And I think the reason I loved him so much is because he didn't really and I think the reason, my theory of why the Police broke up is because Stuart Copeland played the song different every time.
Really?
Yeah.
That was probably the reason why.
Different speeds sometimes.
Wow.
Different, basically got the gist of the song, but
yeah. Did whatever he felt like he was going to do.
Trying to enjoy the fucking song. Back off, Sting.
And Sting is
Sting wanted it exactly.
That's not how it goes. Boy, we see signs of that in Get Back. You know what I mean? We see these dynamics of these bands. The one who goes, I see it.
If you already know what you wanted to hear,
then it's really hard to accept this kind of, I'm going to go and play and do things.
Yeah, that's one of the hardest parts about being in a band, I think.
Yeah.
Is especially with somebody who's really good, who's a good songwriter. They hear it already.
They know what they want.
They'll deal with your version. Right.
They'll tolerate you.
Yeah, it's okay, but it'd be better if you played it this way, don't you think?
Yeah.
And so I could see that dynamic becoming a problem.
Yeah.
With
Mariner 9?
No, I understand why it becomes a problem.
Oh, okay.
Mariner 9, I think most of the time kept that in check.
Yeah. And maybe that's also why you didn't blow up. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I was going to say blow up because you didn't have a complete control freak. You guys were so balanced, and oftentimes balanced bands create sounds that are very unique and hard to identify.
Yeah. I think though that the songwriters predominantly were Brian and Jason, and I think they both were very good at compromise.
Yeah.
And also would be the kind of person to be open to be like, your version's better. After it's over sometimes, after you record it, they're like, okay,
that's fine.
I like yours better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so funny the way those things evolve and those little arguments and those little fights for it was neat. That's why I really liked Get Back, because it's it's boring a lot.
Yeah.
That's,
my mom, I told her, because she loves Beatles, but she loved Beatles before the drugs. She liked the lame, not lame, but she liked the poppy, young bubblegum Beatles, which are still great in what they were. But I mean, really, when they get creative and they start smoking pot and getting out there, that's where the Beatles get amazing.
Yeah.
But I told her to watch Get Back, and she just said, I turned it off. I got bored. And I was like, I never got bored. I mean, episode 2, there's a little bit of that kind of we're hovering around in that studio. We're kind of not going anywhere. But I think because I've been in bands and I'm a musician, I kind of enjoy just watching people fuck around on their instruments. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I thought it was well done. I liked how they let you discover him playing Get Back for the first time.
Oh, that was one of the best scenes in the whole thing.
And you know what it's going to become.
I know.
It's just like,
you're watching it happen. What a moment.
Iconic. Really
Iconic.
cool.
And then for me, the payoff, of course, was, we're on Get Back. I just finished it last week, but the payoff of the rooftop show. I mean, this is my last thing I'm going to say about it, and then we can move on to closing out the podcast talking about
Did I cover Living Color far enough?
Huh?
Did I cover Living Color?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, unless there's anything else that we...
I play really hard still because of Will Calhoun.
Yeah.
I know what I wanted to say is that the chipping of the hi-hat thing...
Yeah.
Once the Pumpkins came on the scene, that made that make so much more sense.
Yeah.
And helped me like add that Jimmy Chamberlain kind of like, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I like how he does it too.
Yeah, because Jimmy Chamberlain also has
there.
jazz and technical skill to back up his playing.
Yeah. So I think that from an influence standpoint really always stuck around to me.
You said there was a cool Pumpkins thing that you wanted to, when we were talking about bands you opened for, and I didn't want to miss that.
We opened for Swerve Driver. At the Trocadero in Philadelphia, which I think went out of business in the pandemic, unfortunately, but it was the coolest place. I mean, I saw some of the best shows ever there. I mean, the way that place would rock was just unbelievable. Great show. So anyway, we were opening for Swerve Driver, and they were from England, and they had toured opening for Smashing Pumpkins pretty close prior to us playing with them. So this was their headlining tour. So it may have been the tour before or whatever.
Right.
And we were kind of fresh off the heels or in that period of time when Jimmy Chamberlain wasn't in the band anymore because Jonathan Melvoin died and all the heroin
So
stuff.
this is 1995, 96.
Probably around there, yeah.
Melancholy tour.
So I was like, how does a dude play that well every night? Because I've seen the Pumpkins a bunch.
Yeah.
With Chamberlain, and he's ridiculous. He is
ridiculous.
He's 40 BPM faster than the record, still flawless on everything. It's just ridiculous. So I'm like, how does that dude do that and heroin together? Like, I don't like. I guess after the show, but like,
probably.
What is he doing to be able to do that?
Yeah.
And then I was just like, that's fucking amazing every day. You know what I mean? Blew me away. And it was so funny because you're sitting backstage and he's rolling one of those blunts, like the cigarette, tobacco and weed together and hand rolling it. And he's a pretty quiet guy. He's just kind of rolling it and looking at me, thinking about the question. I was like, how did he do that? Like, what day to day? Like, what was it like being around Jimmy Chamberlain? How does he get through that? And he's just rolling and thinking and scrunching up his forehead. And he licks the thing. He goes, oh, he was pretty fit.
That was his answer.
That's it.
Yeah.
He was pretty fit.
He was pretty fit. He was a buff dude.
He was jacked.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the secret. But
I mean, he's still jacked. Still pretty buff dude. That's great. That's
what a badass. I love that guy. Like, they weren't the same with the different drummer. I saw them at the Will Turn with the young drummer. He was like 19 or something. He was good. Yeah. He could play all the songs. But
I ran into him here in LA at a movie theater. I was like, I kind of geeked out because I was like, you're playing with the Pumpkins, man. Amazing. And he just kind of looked at me like, I can't believe you're recognizing me. But I was like, I'm a diehard fan.
Yeah.
But what was his name? Mike Byrne.
He was great.
Like that. Yeah.
He was great, but it wasn't. That's the thing I was talking about in the room.
Yeah.
Like, he was good. He could play the songs. Phil Collins' son, good drummer, can play all the Phil Collins song.
Yeah.
Not the same.
Not the same.
Jason Bonham can play all the songs. Not the same. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't understand it, right? But I've watched both.
Yeah.
He's great.
Fascinating.
But he's not the same.
Not the same. And probably has his own footprint that he can leave in his own music. These artists are doing what their father did or the one before them did, and they're trying to replicate it. But the thing about being an artist and being a musician is really you've got to be able to have your own thing. Your own sound.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
It's really interesting to see that difference. So that version of the Pumpkins I didn't like as much, even though he was playing the same shit that Jimmy Chamberlain played.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel the same.
Yeah, I saw Siamese Dream with Chamberlain. I saw Melancholy was. I think Chamberlain was still playing when I saw that part of the tour. No, that was after Melvoin and Chamberlain was out, I think. And then I saw Adore.
They also didn't have Darcy anymore.
Yeah,
she was like
Darcy.
my favorite.
So now the end when I saw the Machina tour.
Yeah.
That was with Melissa Oftermar, and she was on bass, but Jimmy was back, and those were the last two shows I could see. I saw them 5 times in the 90s.
Okay.
But then I've seen them. I saw them on the reunion tour, which was great because it was everybody except for Darcy.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I saw them in a basketball court.
You saw them in a basketball court?
I saw Pearl Jam open for the Smashing Pumpkins, who opened for the Red Hot Chili Peppers in 1991.
What?
Yeah, I'd never heard of Pearl Jam or Smashing Pumpkins.
Well,
to
yeah,
that day.
all these bands are completely brand new at this point.
I could not believe what I had just saw.
Was this in Philly?
No, this was at Penn State University.
Penn State University.
Dude, I walked into the lunch
That's
room or whatever.
Unbelievable. Do you have a ticket or anything from the show?
I don't know. I walked into the lunchroom and this girl that I knew was like, "Hey, you have a car. Will you drive me to Penn State?" And it's 4.5, 5 hours drive.
Yeah.
She was like, "I'll give you a concert ticket." And I was like, "Yeah." Who is it? And she's like, "Red Hot Chili Peppers." I was like, okay.
They've been around for a couple years. You know who they are?
We drove to Penn State and we're sitting down in this basketball court, like not a stadium, not meant for music, basketball court.
Out indoor?
Indoor, yeah.
Oh,
just
the sound in a basketball court is terrible.
It was
so reverberating. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was insane. And Pearl Jam came out. 10 had just come out. Wow. And he's climbing all over the scaffolding and shit.
Holy shit!
And I'm like, what the hell was that with the Matt Chamberlain playing drums?
Yeah.
So like the Alive video.
Yeah.
I saw the Alive video.
That's crazy.
And then Smashing Pumpkins came out. And I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And then by the time the Chili Peppers played, I was like, I don't care about that anymore.
Yeah.
I'll never forget Billy Corgan was like being a total jackass because they had just beat Notre Dame or something. And he's like, "I don't give a fuck about your football game." Yeah. But they played Gish. I mean, it was Gish.
Did he have his long hair? Yeah, because this is early, so he had his long hair.
So I'm like predisposed to not like any other version.
Yeah.
Because I saw Gish, fresh from Chicago, angry
Billy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. What a show.
It was really
I
good.
am so glad. That's kind of like the perfect place to end the show, as in talking about what a landmark moment to see. If you dug through some stuff and you ever found like that concert ticket, that would be mind blowing. I remember before we were wrapping things up, I was about to say something about the Beatles Get Back, but I don't even think I need to. I'm going to talk about that another time. Before we wrap things up, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about with Mariner 9? Before we kind of tidy up the podcast?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it was and still is, I think, one of the quintessential things I've ever done in my life is be in a band with those guys, and we will always do that. You know, I think we're gonna.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get in that room. We want to play shows again, and the 40 or 50 people that remember us from Philly will come and see us, and we'll have fun. Awesome. And we just had that anniversary, like I said, and I think the guitar player posted something on Facebook, and a lot of the people that were replying were like, "Oh my God, I loved going to see Mariner 9." And you're just like, I wish I would have gotten to see Mariner 9 a little bit. Like,
yeah.
And we did this one show. I don't know why we did it, but our hometown bar that we would play at like once a month, we would always pack it out and play this one bar. And I think we were just bored a little bit, and we're like, let's play this show in drag just for the shits of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why we did that. Like it was
it's the 90s,
ridiculous.
man.
And so we all got thrift store dresses and thought it was funny to choreograph the first song, and like somebody videotaped it. I have that videotape. It's so funny. And I remember, like, I knew I would be a sweaty mess, so I didn't get anything done to my face. But like Brian and Jason both got like made up, and we're just a sweating blind mess like halfway through the set.
For sure.
And somebody mentioned I put a picture of that on Facebook, like a screen grab of it, and there was just so many people that we're still to this day super friends with that were there and like remember and associate us with this. It's a different memory for them, which I think is kind of neat.
Yeah,
like
for sure. You were playing.
Yeah,
They were having a night out, launching
weird.
a band.
It's weird. Yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't trade it. I mean, we had so much fun in that van, so much stupid, dumb fun, and just
so cool, man.
Laughing till you want to throw up. Oh, I do want to tell you one other thing.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
This is what it is. Fine. Tell me the story.
I'm remembering little threads of stories. I mentioned the bed.
Oh yeah,
in the
yeah.
van. So you had to go in one way or the other and decide, like, I'm going to lay on my stomach or I'm going to lay on my back for the next 4 to 5 hours.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. Brian couldn't do it. I'm pretty sure Dave never did it. But Jason and Tyler would sometimes sleep up there. Jason predominantly. For some reason, he could just
Pick a side
shut himself off
and just go.
and get in there. And I remember I think we were in Kentucky, and we had driven through the night from a gig, and it was early morning, like dawn, at like a convenience store to like get some coffee and go to the bathroom and brush our teeth and switch drivers. And it had been a long drive straight through, like a good 5-6 hour, like let's rip to this certain spot on the Thomas Guide.
Yeah.
And then we'll make time. Try not to stop. And we all got out. We all went in the bathroom. Jason still hadn't come out of the van. And we came back out from the convenience store and we're looking at the van and opened the doors. And Jason had been laying on his stomach and he backed out. And I did a lot of videotaping back then. I had a high 8 camera, and we have a lot of this on camera, which is why I kind of remember it better. Jason got out of the van, and he didn't look right. He was like shifted, like a little blurry and a little like just off and white and just he looked terrible.
Yeah.
And he's just like, you shouldn't go up there. Like that's not okay. Like he was having these crazy fever dreams of the van flipping over because basically he's sleeping on top of all our equipment. Like
right.
3 half stacks and a drum set.
Yeah.
Like, and 8 inches between him and the roof van. And he was just like shell shocked. He was like, I can't be up. That's not okay. Like he just couldn't even get words out. He had such vivid dreams of like, cause you're up there, we're bumping and like, it's loud and I can't. And so I never even went up there to sleep, but oh God, but we still loved it. Like that is one of my favorite memories of him going, don't go up there.
Don't go
like,
there. Oh my God. That's great.
That's funny.
That's good. Well, that's it, man. That is Waterproof Records with Matt Neal. And is there anything that we can point them to of yours? I mean, we've talked about Mariner 9 on Bandcamp. Is there other places they can support? I mean, Matt is a very funny comedian that we've done shows together, and he hosted shows at a really awesome place here in LA that's unfortunately getting closed down because of the pandemic, which
Stupid
sucks.
pandemic.
But I'm sure you'll have another
I gotta find a new venue.
And then the biggest thing that you guys should know is Matt and I are in a band together.
Yeah.
And this is the 90s cover band that we've been going to practice. We have yet to really officially name or announce any places that we're playing. But we're getting a set list together, and it's a lot of good fun. So is there anything else that we could, steer them to of yours?
I have a podcast called Piece of Chaos.
Yes, Piece of Chaos. He has
Jacob's
a great
been on many times. I realize I haven't looked at you at all. So if you're watching this, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's my job to interact with the people. You're just the guest. Yeah. Piece of Chaos. Well, thank you, Matt Neal, my good buddy, my good friend. You will be seeing us playing around the Southern California and maybe further eventually with our awesome cover band, because I'm not going to lie, we're pretty great. We're pretty good. We're pretty damn good.
We're pretty good. Just saying, we're pretty good.
Well, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Things are gonna change. I can feel it.
If this gonna be that kind of party, I'm gonna